Just in the last week, we've had these. A man was arrested in Texas for threatening lawmakers. Another was arrested for the attempted kidnapping of the mayor in Memphis. In Georgia, a 25-year-old was charged for threatening sexual violence against Senators Cruz and Fisher. Then there was the former Coast Guard officer who was arrested for making threats against President Trump. The NYPD investigation into car bomb threats made against mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. And today, officials arrested an individual who they believe tried to run Ohio Congressman Max Miller off the road. The congressman's 911 call was just released.
I was just driving to work, and I was cut off by a man in a Tesla who held up a Palestinian flag to me and then rolled down his window and said that I'm going to cut your throat and your daughters. And he said, "You're a dirty Jew. I'm going to kill you all, and I know who you are and where you live."
So how's that for terrifying? Our panel is back. Chuck Todd, I mean, when you start, I mean, that is just the last week, all of those headlines of the way this rhetoric is turning into people who are either taking action or threatening action. That incident with Max Miller also combines just absolutely disgusting anti-Semitism as well, which is, you know, an undercurrent in many of these cases and instances. What does this say, and is there any way to kind of to stop any of this?
I don't know if this is going to stop it, but it can't, like, it needs leadership. And unfortunately, right now, I feel as if even those politicians that are speaking up are doing it from their own partisan point of view, right? So it when one says it, there creates this defensive posture with the other side, whatever the other side is. You know, sometimes if you're talking on the Israeli-Palestinian side, you'll get it. If you're talking on the ICE issue and immigration, you get it another way. But that's been the problem. I go back to what I said earlier this week. It's going to take presidential leadership. This is a moment, right? There's only one president at a time. There's one person. He's the leader here. No matter what, he has the ability, if he wants to convene, to tone down. I think previous presidents of the past, some of them might have convened an event at the White House, might have tried to bring some folks together. How can we tone this down? This is not a priority of our national political leadership, right? There's certainly people nervous about it in Congress, but you don't see it from the White House. And look, this is what a president has to do. And I think without presidential leadership, this isn't going away.
Congressman, I mean, you were an elected official. I mean, talk a little bit about what it was like for you and how it's changed. I know you're still in touch with a lot of your former colleagues. I mean, this has really accelerated.
I mean, first of all, I agree with Chuck. It's going to take leadership from the top, but it can also take members and senators standing up, unified, and talking about this from both sides of the aisle. But, you know, let's dispel a myth. Like, vast majority of members of Congress don't have security, right? Unless you're in leadership, there's 5 or 6 members of Congress in leadership. You know, you leave the office, you leave the Capitol, you fly back home. You go,
a lot are having
to
to
the
pay
airport.
for it out of their own campaign account.
Yeah, or that, you know. So, like, and I've had death threats before, and it's unnerving to have a squad car parked outside your house with a family. And I mean, we could talk on and on about this, but let's think about the chill that it puts on other folks who may want to enter public service and may want to, you know, serve their country, but be like, well, I don't want to put my family through this when the national mood and environment is so toxic and so bad. So it's going to take leadership from the top, but it's also going to take, you know, electing higher quality members and senators.
We have now, though, become a country that has political violence as an endemic part of our political process. We can look at other countries and point fingers, and we can say, oh my goodness, look at Mexico, look at, you know, other countries around the world. But this is now something that we are dealing with here, and we are getting used to it. And that's what worries me. We are getting used to it. People are indifferent to it. They feel like it's the cost of doing business.
I want to play a little bit of what Congressman Van Orden had to say about this when he talked about it, what it was like to be threatened, but also what it should be, or rather, what's being allowed to happen. Just watch.
When people are trying to threaten you with violence to prevent you from doing your job as a legislator, that's not how this country was designed. People have been enabled So if you keep saying things over and over and over again and no one tells you to knock it off, you're just going to keep it up. You don't go from 0 to assassinating somebody overnight. That's a long, iterative, terrible process.
I mean, Shermichael Singleton, Republican there, and
Yeah.
speaking to, what Lulu was speaking to, and also Chuck, that when this is allowed to happen without leaders who say it's not okay, it fundamentally changes the environment.
It does. I do wonder, though, Casey, if that is enough. If words from leaders will still hold the same prowess they once held 20, 25 years ago. I'm a bit skeptical. I think about Francis Fukuyama's article that came out in the late 1980s about democracy, and he questioned, is this as good as it becomes when you think about discontent and people being angry and anxiety and people feeling that nothing is working for me? Then you really sort of have an explosion. And that's what we're seeing, to your point, Lulu, of us just becoming normal. We're used to this. It's like, well, this is just the case of being in America. This is just the expectation when anxiety is at an all-time high. We're going to take actions
But
into our own hands
this
and
is
try
what
to
was
act on
supposed
it.
to have been different about America.
I
right?
agree,
We were
Casey.
supposed to
I
solve
agree
our problems with
100%.
words.
I agree 100%. But I think we're finding ourselves as a result of where people see their current situations, being their lives being at a place where no one is attempting to reform it for the betterment. Then people are
Shermichael,
willing to take
there's a question
things into
here.
their own hands in
Is
the
this
negative.
top down or is this bottom up? That is the question.
I agree.
Chuck Todd is making the point that this can be seen as top down because you have such heated rhetoric coming from partisans. And then the other question is, what effect does that have? There's multiple studies that show that leaders have an enormous effect. People take their cues from leaders.
But that's one
and
part of it,
actions.
though.
But there's also,
There's
look,
one part of it.
5 years ago, we all speculated, hey, how long can we allow violent rhetoric online and assume it just stays online? And it stayed online for a couple of years. Now it's not staying online. I mean, I think we can't look away from that, right? Big tech and their algorithms fuel this as well, right? They keep you online, they keep you
Quite
angry.
literally reward this kind of speech.
Correct.
By
And then-
elevating it.
And then there's this other weird aspect where some of these violent actors, take the guy who assassinated the healthcare executive, are lionized. So
But that goes to my point
is
about the
another-
discontent and disillusionment.
There's no doubt, but this is we have this, so this is where it's a two-pronged issue. You've got a leader at the top who needs to do better. And certainly there are times that he feels as if he almost also rewards it, doesn't look away. But let's not take, big tech has algorithmed us to a boiling point for their own profits here that is also contributing.
It's a multi-pronged issue, right? There's a mental health issue in our country. Like you said, there's
I don't know if it's cause or effect,
Well,
by
but
the way.
there's cable news, there's social media. There's a cycle here when members go into the committee room and they say something outlandish, and then it ends up on a cable news network, and then it goes to a fundraising email, then it goes to social media, and it perpetuates itself. And it's hard to get these people out of office because of gerrymandering, because you can only attack some of these people from the flank. So either go to the far left or the far right, and they're not leaving willingly, as we've seen, right? So without age limits or term limits or some redistricting.
But Casey, I do think, though, that there's a real problem with cultural discontent and decline. And I think you can see a through line to why people are angry. You can see the anxiety. And I think you can look at that and point to why some people, not all, and I'm not justifying it, but why some believe this is the only way to actualize their concerns. Don't agree, disagree, and we need to address it. But I don't think you can overlook
Well,
it.
there's no
people are
doubt our
getting
democracy
radicalized.
our democracy isn't working well. We have a Congress
Exactly.
that isn't very representative. It probably needs to be twice the size. I mean, I do think people feel disconnected from government.
I
And when
don't
you-
think that's why this
when
is
you feel-
happening.
no, but it creates, to defend Shermichael here, it does, the farther you are away from government, the more you think you have to take matters into your own hands, and the internet rewards those
Well,
who take
and
matters into their own
in a world too where
But it's
if
all of it.
if people are feeling as though they do not have access to the American dream, if they feel like the system is not one where they can succeed, and then you combine it with leaders who offer permission structures that allow people to take matters into their own hands
And lots of guns.
and lots of phones, you have a really, really difficult situation. All right, this is obviously a conversation we could let go for the rest of the hour, and we're going to continue to have it.
But we didn't yell at each other.
But hey,
Right? We showed you how to have the conversation, America.
They-
Damn it. We can do it.